At the end of last week's parsha, we read about the Milah. Avram, at the age of 99, was circumcised. And Chazal tell us, Rashi explains, although that Avram circumcised all the members of his household, Ishmael, himself being 99 years old, wasn't so simple. And Hashem assisted him to do the actual cutting, because he was older. And a man at 99 years old who has Milah, the recovery period is not so simple. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give him a respite from the wayfarers, from the guests, and take a break from his hospitality. Avram Avinu's chesed, his hospitality, his achnosus orachim, nothing in the history of the world can compare to his achnosus orachim, to his hospitality. It's known, his tent or his home had 4 entrances. You could enter from any side, whatever direction you were coming. His home was wide open to welcome guests. Now, what exactly was Avram's objective of achnosus orachim? Was it just to do chesed for this, because the people who are in need of hospitality? Or the chesed had an objective? We know that Avram Avinu, he did tremendous, one of a level of outreach, as we read last week's, when he went from Choron to Canaan, he took with him Hanefesh Asher Asa b'Choron, the people who he had made in Choron. So Rashi cites Chazal, the Medrash. What does it mean, the people who he made in Choron? So Chazal tell us, Avram Megairis HaNoshim, the Sorai Megairis HaNoshim. Avram converted the men to monotheism, and Sarai was involved in converting the women. They entered into a dialogue, and anybody who entered with a dialogue with Avram or Sarai regarding who is the creator of the world, is it the deity, or is it there is one monotheistic being? Nobody ever left Avram's tent who was not convinced that there is a creator, and the creator determines every aspect of existence. So hospitality, Avram Avinu, was only the vehicle to bring about, to espouse monotheism. Avram Avinu did not do chesed for chesed. It was a vehicle to bring people to monotheism. Okay? The Torah tells us in this week's parsha, Avram Avinu is sitting at the entrance of his tent, Kechom Hayom. The first pasuk in the parsha. Vayera ilav Hashem be'elonei mamrei, v'hu yoshev pesachol kechom hayom. And he's sitting at the entrance of his tent at the hottest time of the day. And Chazal tell us that from the beginning of creation till this moment, there was no hotter day in existence. What Hashem caused it to be so hot? So Rashi over here, take a look in Kechom hayom, the first pasuk. Hotzi HaKadosh Baruch Hu Chamei Nartiko. Hashem took the sun out of its sheath, Shalatricha B'orchim, that he should not be bothered and be burdened with guests. Ulfisha Ra'o Mitztayer Shloi Orchim Boim. When Hashem saw that he was pained that wayfarers were not coming, Hevi HaMalochim Olav B'dus HaNoshim. Hashem brought angels in human form. And Avram didn't know they were angels. He thought they were mortals in need of hospitality. And that's what we find. He offered the water to wash their feet, as Rashi says later, because he was concerned they were idolaters. They worshipped the dust of the earth. So he didn't want that idolatry to be tracked into his house. So the objective of his mission was Kiruv, to bring people to the understanding that there is a creator, and the creator is involved in every aspect of creation. And God did not give over the world to the hosts, which is the basis to deities, which is the basis of paganism. Okay? So when we say that Avram was mitztayer, Avram was a very wealthy man. As we see, when he left Egypt, he left with tremendous wealth. That was the cause of the dispute between the shepherds of Avram and the shepherds of Lot. gold, silver, herds, flocks. They had so much. So it wasn't Avram's generosity which caused him to do hospitality, but rather he had a mission. The objective was bringing people to monotheism. So what happens now that it's the hottest day of the year or the history of the world, there are no wayfarers? Rashi says Hashem saw that Avram was mitztayer. He was pained that there weren't wayfarers coming. And when Hashem saw that, he brought Malochim b'dmus hanoshim. He brought angels in human form. So again, what was the pain and the distress that Avram was experiencing? And that's why he was sitting at the entrance of his tent in every direction. He was pained that every moment a person does not enter into his tent. What does that mean? That means the Chil Hashem, God's name, is being desecrated every moment until he enlightens that person who is the master and who is the benefactor, who is the creator. That was the source of Avram's pain. It wasn't that, as the person says, the money's burning a hole in his pocket. That's not Avram Avinu. But rather, it was his Avos Hashem, it was love for God, that he lived only for God's glory. Therefore, that drove him and that motivated him in this mission to do what he did. It's interesting. We find at the beginning of Noach, it says, Noach hayotzorach sad. Noach, to be who he was, he needed an assistance. Hashem had to assist him to be that special tzaddik. Avram lo hayotzorach sad. Avram, he continued to advance himself and soar continuously. Avram never plateaued. And therefore Rashi says over there that if Noach, if comparing who he was to Avram, lo yinechshev leklub, he would have been considered nothing. Because Noach plateaued, Avram didn't plateau. Why did Avram plateau? Because what was the impetus? What was the impetus? What drove? What motivated Avram? What motivated Avram was that until every human being is shown the truth, Avram cannot tolerate the pain of Chil Hashem. Because Avram himself, part of his gratitude towards his benefactor is actually to show people truth and to convert them from paganism to monotheism. That's exactly what it was all about. So Avram unceasingly kept soaring for that reason. So now that the wayfarers are not coming because it's the hottest time of the existence, he's at the entrance of the tent. Bring down something in a moment. Vayiseino vayar. He lifted his eyes and he saw V'hinei shlosha anoshim nitzov molov. He sees three men standing opposite him. Vayar. And he realized, as Rashi says, what is it? Vayar, he saw twice. The first one was visual. The second one's realization. Vayoretz l'krosim pesach oil. He ran towards them from the entrance of his tent. Vayishtachu ortza. And he prostrated himself. Could you imagine? He's 99 years old. He's infirm. And he's waiting. He sees them. He runs. He's a 99-year-old man. And if he went a little more leisurely, what's the whole idea of running? It's like a person is an investment banker or a person does deals. And this is the deal of his career. When he sees that deal coming down the pike, he's running there. He's there 6 a.m. before the office even opens because somebody may get the deal away from him. Avram Avinu is pained because Chil Hashem, he hasn't seen anyone. All of a sudden he sees somebody coming down the road. What does he do? Vayoretz. This is his essence. He lives for this, he breathes this. So it's Vayoretz. He's running to do something. He's waiting with bated breath to bring this about. If you understand who Avram was. Because it wasn't chesed for chesed. The objective was to turn pagans to monotheists. That's the reason why it's Vayoretz. So it's interesting. We find by Rivka, when Eliezer went to find a wife for Yitzchak, And then he had certain signs who would be the appropriate wife for Yitzhak. He says, I will come, and there will be a maiden, and I will ask her for some water, and so on and so forth. All of a sudden, Rivka comes out, and she's carrying a pitcher of water, drew some water, and it says, and he asked her, could I have a sip of water? And it follows, the narrative follows, what does it say over there? Vatorots. She ran to the well, drew water, poured into the trough. She ran. The running there is what? When Rivka is running, what is she running for? There she's running to accommodate a person's needs. There wasn't to convert anybody to monotheism. There was chesed to do chesed. By Avram Avinu, the running is not to do chesed for chesed. It's a whole different motivation why you're running. If a person's essence is chesed, and you see a person who's in need, you can't, the moment is not soon enough to address that need. Avram Avinu, the running here was a whole different night. He was mitzdayer. Here, before the need presented itself, he was paying that those wayfarers are not coming. Rivka, she ran when she heard this man needed water to quench his thirst. She ran towards the well to draw water. It was a whole different running. There was chesed for the sake of chesed. Avram Avinu chesed, it wasn't chesed for chesed. Here it was only, the chesed was the vehicle to espouse monotheism. It's a whole different idea. Now, because this was the source, this was the motivator, this was the impetus, Kavod Shamayim, what does the Torah, what follows, what's the narrative? He said to them, rest under the shade of my tree, take water to wash your feet, and have a morsel of bread. So Chazal tell us, it's a Medrash and it's a Gemara, that in the merit of rest under the shade of my tree, we merited the Ani HaKavod. For 40 years in the desert, we merited the clouds of glory, which protected us and provided unlimited levels of benefit. In the merit of the water, offering the water, we merited Be'er Shel Miriam, the wellspring of Miriam. Merit of the bread, we merited the mun. And what's the mun? The mun was spiritual sustenance, which was in physical form. And the Chazal tell us, Lo nidna Torah el ochle aman. The man spiritualized us to give us a greater capacity that during that 40-year period, we should maximize on our Torah study. Okay? So let's understand. If Avram wouldn't have been pained that the wayfarers weren't coming, how would the angels come? They would have come in angel form, as angels, not as human beings. As a result of that, he wouldn't have offered the shade of his tree, he wouldn't have offered water, he wouldn't have offered bread. So why are we beneficiaries of the Ani HaKavod, the Be'er Shel Miriam, and the man? Because Avram Avinu was mitzdayer that he couldn't provide the hospitality for Orchim. Because he was paying for Kavod Shamayim, that precipitated and brought about the end result. Something phenomenal. If he wouldn't have been paying for this, it wouldn't have happened. Klaus wouldn't have been beneficiaries of the three, which were significant in our development. But because he was pained, those were the fruits of that pain.